More on the relationship between Greece and Russia, I spoke with Uri Dadush. He is a senior associate with the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace here in Washington. I started out by asking him what motivated the two countries to meet.
Well, first of all, these are countries that have long-standing, very friendly ties. Russia is, of course, a very important country, an important power. It's perfectly natural for the Greek Prime Minister, new Greek Prime Minister, to meet with his Russian counterpart, and vice versa. So there is definitely that aspect. At the same time, given the very difficult situation of Greece within Europe and of Russia in relation to its sanctions from the European Union and the other advanced countries, obviously there is an undertone here where on Mr. Tsipras' side he's looking for a little bit more negotiating space. And with the Europeans. Mr. Putin hopes that the front of sanctions will break at some point. And as we well know, there are very different opinions within Europe, not just with the Greeks and the Cypriots, but there are different views within Europe as to just how existential a threat the whole situation with Russia is, and whether the sanctions have not gone too far, whether Russia is not anyway in a very weak position because of lower oil prices.
So then, could a meeting like this, Mr. Dadush, could it serve to further break apart the EU's resolve, at least Greece's resolve?
I don't think it's quite so extreme. I don't think Mr. Tsipras sees that he has the freedom, or believes that he has the freedom to break from the United Front by himself. I believe that he understands that he has to work as part of and within his international commitments vis-à-vis the EU partners. So I would not be at all surprised if next time that the sanctions discussion comes up, which I believe is going to be this summer, that Mr. Tsipras takes a very different view than most other Europeans. And then there's going to have to be a negotiation, like everything else in the European Union. But there is no automatic exit here for anybody.
Now, how about Russia? What does it stand to gain? You talked about the dire straits, and we know that these sanctions have taken a real bite out of the currency value and just the general economy and the ability to do business in Russia.
First of all, I do believe that the big problems in Russia are not so much tied to the sanctions, although they certainly hurt. The big problems in Russia are much more tied to the collapse of the oil price. But that being said, by building on its long-standing friendship with Greece, Cyprus, others in the Eurozone, or in the EU rather, such as Hungary, they increase the chances that when sanctions come up for review next time around, the United Front breaks. They do need unanimity to continue to pursue these sanctions, or that as a minimum the sanctions can be light towards Russia. So it's part of offensive on the Russian, perfectly understandable.
Our relationship the last option to get economic hold and anticipate that it will in fact come to a betterment instead.
Again, I don't to be the Russia-Greek relation to be a serious option or an alternative or a way for Greece to leave the Eurozone. I believe that the heart of the questions lie in domestic reforms inside Greece, which are politically extraordinarily difficult for Mr. Tsipras, given all the promises that he has made. That's the main front. And then the second big front is to convince his European partners that he's serious and for them to be a little more generous. That's where the center of the problem is. And that's where the main focus, I believe, of Tsipras and his team is going to be.